There's no right or wrong when it comes to choosing a video doorbell. Different video doorbells suit different people and different lifestyles, but there are some questions that you can ask to make sure that you get the right doorbell for you. The first thing to consider is what technology you already have, if any, because if you're already set up on the Alexa system or the Google Home system, you might want to choose a video doorbell that will integrate with your existing system and keep your technology as streamlined as possible. Another factor to consider is whether or not you want your video doorbell to be wired or wireless. If you go for the wireless option, then it's going to be running on batteries, which means that you can get it up and running straight away and it's nice and easy to set up. However, that means that those batteries have a life, of course, and be very careful to check how long that life will be, because some of them can last as little as a week, which means every week you've got the hassle of recharging and thinking about those batteries all the time. Of course, it depends on the settings how long they will last as well, so have a look into that. The other option is wired. Now, this means that you're going to have to get power to wherever you put your doorbell, so potentially it's a little bit more hassle and expense to get that set up at the beginning, but perhaps easier in the long run. Next up, you need to consider whether or not you need or want to sign up to a subscription service. So this is where you pay to have all of your video history stored on the cloud so that you can access it at a later date. The easy way to work out whether or not you need this is think about what you're using your video doorbell for. If you just want to see who's at the door, then you don't necessarily need to look back at that history. However, if you're using it as a security camera as well, then it may be worth paying that monthly fee, but it is quite a big commitment and it can add up over the year, so I would think about this one carefully. I would also bear in mind the fact that there are some security and legal questions around these doorbells as well, so if you are actually storing people's data, you need to be quite careful. Even just using the normal system, you need to make sure that you're notifying people that you're recording them, and be very careful if you're recording any areas that fall outside of your actual property itself. If you don't sign up for the monthly subscription, your doorbell will just temporarily record what it sees to the cloud, but it will write over that continually quite quickly. So you are still storing data to some extent. Another alternative is that some of them have SD card slots where you can insert an SD card and you can record that as well. But with both of those, you also need to be careful about the privacy rules. Another thing to look carefully at is what settings your video doorbell has. So some of them are really quite clever and you can use them to exclude certain zones so they don't get triggered by animals all the time, for example. Others of them will actually tell you there's a person with a parcel at the door, for example, and some of them you can get just to record very specific zones. So check that it's got the options that you need before you go ahead and buy one. Something else to think about is, does your video doorbell have face recognition? So this is quite a nice feature that some of them include, and that means they'll recognise who's at the door and tell you. So you might get a notification on your phone or whichever device you're using linked to your doorbell, and it will say a certain person is at the door. Now this can be useful for people who live alone, or for if you've perhaps got carers visiting an elderly relative. So make sure you think about what you want your video doorbell for and whether or not that's an important factor. Now, when you're looking at all the lovely things that your video doorbell can do, make sure you also check out what's actually included in the package, because some of them are set up so that you then have to pay extra and pay subscriptions for certain things. So, for example, two-way communication on some of them, it can do it, but it's not actually included in that initial price. You then have to pay on top of that, so you don't want to get stung at a later date. Now, this may seem like a very silly question, but you actually need to check whether or not your video doorbell rings. Believe it or not, with some of them, ringing is not included. They will just send you a push notification to your phone, and you actually have to buy a separate chime to ensure that you get that bell ring. So if that's important to you, check out whether or not it's included, because you don't want to then have to pay an extra. They're about £50 sometimes afterwards. When you think all your money is spent and you think you're ready to set up, that could be a nasty surprise. Another important factor that's very easy to overlook is, does your Wi-Fi reach the video doorbell? So traditional doorbells don't run on Wi-Fi. Never had to think about this before, but if you've got a poor connection in your house, or perhaps you've got a huge great porch, or you're putting it at the end of somewhere far away, then is that Wi-Fi actually going to reach? Because if it doesn't, it's not going to work. One to think about if you're in the UK, in our lovely climate, is it waterproof? Now this is very easy to check on the specifications. Just make sure that it's IP rated. Most of them will be, but there might be some rogue ones out there that are coming from different places that don't enjoy quite so much rain that haven't thought about this factor. Something else to consider these days with any wireless product is it secure and can it easily be hacked? Now, of course, there's no definitive answer to this question, but perhaps go for a more trusted brand and then you can look into what efforts they're making to keep the devices secure. The good news is the longer these products are around on the market, the more the manufacturers are having to make effort to keep them secure, otherwise we wouldn't buy them. So I hope that you found that useful if you are in the process of choosing a video doorbell. With all that said and done, the one that we went for is, drum roll please, the Google Nest video doorbell, and that's because we've already got that system at home, so it integrates well with all the technology that we've already got. We've got a nice little hub in our kitchen, and so when someone comes to the door, we can glance over there, we get a voice notification, and we can look at exactly who's at the door. So that works for us, but maybe something else works for you. If you've got your own experiences or comments, please feel free to share them and add them down in the comments below. But that's all for today. If you're new here, please do consider subscribing. I post lots of helpful home content, so I'd love to see you again soon. And if you enjoyed this video and found it useful, do give it a thumbs up. But that's all for now. Bye bye.